White feminism is a term you may have heard of before. Today, we're going to take a look at what it is, how it works, and who it leaves out. And we're going to speak with the woman who literally wrote the book on white feminism. That's Koa Beck. She's joining us this morning from Los Angeles. Koa, welcome to your morning, a historic day in your country as we take a look at the history of feminism from the 20s all the way up to 2021 and the Instagram influencers. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, Anne Marie.
Yeah, I can't wait to have more of this conversation. In the book, you describe white feminism as a specific approach to achieving gender equality. And it doesn't just leave out, it's not exclusive just to white women. Tell us more about the approach and who it does leave out.
Sure. So, the ideology of white feminism, as I define it very early on for the reader, is a very specific approach to achieving gender equality that pulls considerably from colonialism, imperialism, certain factors of capitalism, and specifically exploitation of labor, and inherits quite a bit from white supremacy as well. And, from, as you say, the turn of the century through now, its hallmark is that it advocates that women ascend within these channels rather than rethink them or challenge them in strategic ways.
How does it leave out non white women?
Well, specifically, the priorities of white feminism in my country, the policies that it has often, prioritized, or its values, are simply not accessible or available to many women and non-binary people. Specifically, for instance, like white feminism has often been, since the beginning in this country, a very aspirational fantasy. So the way this manifests now is like, wanting to run a company or have like a powerful, like white collar leadership position. And that is upheld as feminism. And for most women and other marginalized genders in not just the United States, but the world, they're seeking a basic standard of living, affordable housing, food security, healthcare, things like that. They're not necessarily looking to, be this very powerful figure.
I was first introduced to this ideology or this concept when somebody said to me, the progress for women has often been on the backs of other women, and the lean in concept by Sandberg, as you point out, is often leaning on marginalized or women of color, usually in underpaid positions. Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. So a lot of the mantras, specifically in the United States, post Lean In, have been that you should essentially just outsource whatever domestic labor, you have as a woman or a marginalized gender in your house so that you can achieve that, powerful role outside the home, or, that entrepreneurship opportunity. And the fact that you just use a term like outsource, to recruit essentially a low income woman, usually a woman of color, to come into your home, clean it, take care of your children so that you can then leave and take on these other responsibilities and make an impression in the proverbial boardroom, does not rethink any sort of care models. And a lot of your success that you are able to do is specifically because you have recruited these low income women of color into your home to take on jobs that would otherwise be your responsibility or that of your partners.
We're going to get to how we can change our approach or change our thinking around this in a second. But one thing I really like about your book is it doesn't say feminism is bad. It doesn't say throw out the idea of the advancement of women, but it does challenge you to do a rethink of how you approach it. And talk to me further about this concept of a cul-de-sac, this white feminism cul-de-sac, that you come out the same way you come in.
Mm-hmm. Well, my career has been in mainstream women's media, and I use a lot of examples from my own life to basically show how this works in real time. And something that I've been across, not so much with, colleagues, them as well, but also even just people I've interviewed throughout my career, people I've profiled, is that the declaration of privilege, as you say, is used to sort of begin and end any conversations about structural racism or, the lack of women of color, either profiled or like in a newsroom or, in any capacity. So the idea that you start a sentence with like, as a straight white woman, I, don't think that we should be doing X, right? It doesn't really disrupt any channels. You're not leading that statement and then breaking from a policy that has disenfranchised, say, like single mothers or women over 50. You're basically affirming that you are the power holder in the room and the conversation, and that alone is deemed sufficient and also racially literate.
Koa, just before we let you go, can you talk more about this need to fight for visibility and some specific examples of what that can look like for people who are looking to do that?
Sure. In the last third of my book, I lay out a plan essentially to course correct for white feminism. And one of the points I make is to, instead of, talking about your own privilege or leading with that, is to make other women more visible, whether it's through your hiring policies or, a lot in my career, like who you cover, who you basically give like coverage and attention to. Because for large swaths of the mainstream feminist movement, especially in the United States, women who are Native, women who are immigrant, women who are working class, queer people, non-binary people, these people have frankly not even existed. And so to basically use what resources you have at your disposal to get them front and center, whether it's resources, media, cultural programming, those are ways to start.
Koa Beck, great pleasure to talk to you this morning. She's the author of White Feminism. Thanks for joining us here in your morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.